Good morning everyone. I hope all of you are refreshed, recharged and eager to learn. Today we are going to start our first chapter and we are going to start discussing the important concepts of the first chapter. As you can see on the board, we have mentioned the important snippets or the important concepts that we are going to learn today. Today, as written on the board, the objective of today's video is to understand the concept of charge, field, as well as the concept of conductors and insulators. I hope that this video is supplemented with a reading of NCERT textbook for further understanding. So, let us begin. First of all, let us discuss about charges. What are charged particles and how do they behave? Any body in the universe is recognized by its characteristics, how it interacts with other bodies. For example, if I ask you about a human being, what are the properties of a human being? A human being is known by the way he or she interacts with other human beings. Similarly, a charged particle is known by the way it interacts with other charged particles. So it's all about force. Now, let us come to the concept of fields. To understand the concept of charges, the concept of field is really important for us. So, as mentioned on the board, fields are of four categories. But to understand fields, we must understand the definition of field. The textbook definition is different, but I would like to give you a conceptual definition of field. Fields are invisible lines of forces. Yes, let me repeat that again. Fields are invisible lines of forces. In nature, there are four kinds of non-contact forces. So what is a contact force and a non-contact force? If I have to apply force on a piece of chalk, I have to be in contact with it and put it into another place. But when gravity pulls the piece of chalk, there is no contact. So it is called a non-contact force. In nature, there are four prominent non-contact forces. The first is gravitational force. As you know, without coming into contact, because of gravity, one body can be pulled towards the center of the earth. The second is magnetic force. Even magnetic force, when we place two magnets near to each other, they don't come into contact, but they either repel or else they attract. So even this force is exerted without coming into contact and it is a form of non-contact force. The third variety of force, non-contact force, is electric force. In younger classes, I'm sure that you must have played with a comb by combing your hair with a piece of comb and then attracting bits of paper. That is a different kind of force as compared to gravity and magnetism. That is electric force. In cold winters, when you rub your hand with a piece of blanket, you can observe that your hair strands are attracted by the piece of blanket. Even that is an example of electrostatic force. And finally, there is nuclear force. We will discuss all the forces in detail. Already gravity we have discussed in class 11, but in class 12 we are going to discuss about nuclear force, we are going to discuss about electric force, we are going to discuss about magnetic force. So, how do these non-contact forces act? How are two charged particles able to attract or repel each other? These happen with the help of fields. These fields are invisible force lines. So you can imagine, if I consider a magnet has got invisible force lines around it, because of which it pushes or pulls another magnet. Similarly, when this piece of chalk is being pulled by the earth is not pulling the piece of chalk. It is the gravitational field created by the earth which interacts by the gravitational field of the chalk, because of which the piece of chalk goes down. So this is the concept of fields. So if you like the content of the video, then please like, subscribe and share by hitting the bell icon, and it will encourage us to come with more videos with newer content. So let us come back to the topic. Now we are going to discuss about the basic charges. What are the charges? What are the properties? As we have already discussed, the electric field lines are invisible lines of forces. So if we take two charged particles or two particles, one is a charged particle and another is an uncharged particle, what is the difference between both the particles? A charged particle will have an electric field around it and an uncharged particle will not have an electric field around it. Similarly, if a charged particle comes in contact with an electric field, it will experience force. So if you bring two charged particles near to each other, their electric fields are going to interact and they will either repel or they will get attracted. In short, a charged particle is a particle which experiences electric force. This electric force is different as compared to magnetic force or gravitational force. The next question that arises in our minds is, what are these charged particles made up of? So coming to the answer of that question, the basic constituent of a charged particle is either electrons or protons. So a charged particle is either made up of electrons or protons. Now, why there are two kinds of charges? Why do I say that electrons or protons? That is because if we consider gravity, there is only attraction, there is no repulsion. But when we consider two charged particles, there can be repulsion or there can be attraction, which means there are two kinds of charged particles. So, these charged particles are categorized into positive charges and negative charges. The positive charges are made up of protons and the negative charges are made up of electrons. So, if I have a negatively charged particle, then it has an excess of electron. If we have a positively charged particle, it has excess of proton. As we are already aware, every particle in the universe is made up of atoms and every atom has the equal number of protons and electrons. So, either by adding more number of electrons, we can make a particle negative, or else by adding more number of protons, we can make a particle positive. But generally, adding protons is not possible, because atoms are rigidly placed at the center of the protons are rigidly placed at the center of the atom, and any disturbance to the proton will result in a nuclear reaction, which requires much more energy as compared to disturbing an electron. Therefore, generally a body is charged by either removing electrons or by adding electrons. So this is the concept of charge. What is the value of charge? So, an electron has a charge of minus 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulombs, and a proton has a charge of 1.6 plus 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulombs. Please keep these values in mind. These are very important and are going to be very beneficial for us in the further courses. Now coming to the final topic, conductors and insulators. In the study of electronics or electrostatics, it is very important to understand the concept of conductors and insulators. Whatever we are going to discuss in this chapter is pertaining to electrostatics. In this chapter, we are going to study the charges at rest. So, what are conductors and what are insulators? Conductors are bodies which allow the free flow of electrons, which have free electrons and allow the electrons to flow from one region to another region, whereas insulators do not have free electrons and they cannot allow the electrons to flow. For example, if we take a plastic wire, it is an insulator. You cannot connect a plastic wire to the two ends of a battery and expect current to flow. When you consider a battery, you have to connect both the ends of a battery with the help of a conductor wire. You cannot connect it with a piece of wood. You cannot connect it with a piece of plastic. You cannot connect it with any insulator, because insulators do not have free electrons. They will not allow the current to pass. Whereas conductors have free electrons and they allow the electrons to flow. So this was today's video. I hope you have understood the concepts of fields, of charges, of conductors and insulators. Any doubts can be put up in the comment section below, and I'm looking forward to the next video and your encouragement with comments and likes in the video. Thank you.